the February edition of Ham Radio Q&A's Your Questions Answered. I'm Michael, KB9VBR.
And I'm Joe, KD9CGX.
And thanks for joining us today. We are glad that you're here with us. Here in northern Wisconsin, it is a beautiful snowy day. Had a winter storm. Brutal?
Brutal is the word. You didn't drive today.
No, I did not drive. I stayed home. We had 6 inches of snow.
I mean, six isn't a lot.
No,
it's a fair amount, but it just came at bad times, and there wasn't really good snow plowing going on today. So my drive home from work was bad. My drive to work was bad because it was all ice. So I'll be happy when it's over.
Oh yeah.
But the weather is changing, and we're supposed to have lows 15 to 20 below this weekend, with wind chills to 35 below. So I guess be careful what you ask for, because you're going to get it. We're going to get different weather.
It's a typical February winter storm in the upper Midwest. You get a strong low system come through. And then the next day, when the high pressure rolls in, the temperature just plummets and the wind picks up, and then we just get those amazingly bad wind chills. So exactly. it's gonna be a cold week, and then we
be a great weekend for Winterfield Day.
Yeah, it would be.
Unfortunately, I had to bail.
And we'll talk about that in a second. Let's greet some of these people that are coming in. So let's see, we've got Eric, hello. Alan is here, and Mike's Bikes. Hey, what's up, Mike? And Kevin and Alan. He has one of a 2-meter dipole. It's also resonant on 70 centimeters. And how would you explain that quickly?
Magic.
The 70 centimeter or the band is a frequency multiple of the 2-meter band. So with that antenna, if you tune it for 2 meters, typically what happens is that you get a pretty good match on the 70 centimeter band. So it works well as a dual band antenna.
Exactly. So it's always got to remember, though, it's odd multiples. So third harmonic, fifth harmonic, seventh harmonic, etc.
And the only downside is that you do get a little bit of a wacky radiation pattern. So it's not going to be good for DX, but it'll be fine for local contacts.
Get you to the next repeater.
That's right. And let's see what else we got. Keith, hi all, and Kelly Becker, and Greg, and Jeff. Yeah, we get rooms filling up here. So thanks a lot, everybody, for coming in this evening. And we got it looks like Peter's going to asking a POTA question, so we'll talk about that when we talk about
it's a grounding question.
Grounding question. So I'll throw that to you in a couple of minutes as we get a couple more people starting to pop in here. So let's see, what are you drinking today, Joe?
Well, I'm keeping it local. Go this way. Point Brewery, Snow Pilot.
All right.
It's a appropriate beverage for a snowy evening here in Wisconsin.
There you go. That's not a bad beer. I've got the Three Sheeps water slides, not quite local, but it's in Sheboygan.
Water slides.
Water slides. It's on the third coast. Lake Michigan is the third coast. Did you know that?
Really? That's interesting.
They surf down there. There's a surf shop.
I just call it Lake Michigan.
There is a surf shop in Sheboygan. Let's say that after a couple beers. And
surf shop in Sheboygan, sir.
We're going downhill fast. And we got a good show tonight. We are going to talk about Winterfield Day. In a little bit, we're going to be giving away this meter. So hopefully everybody has their name in the hat. And
remember, you got to keep that ticket. We're going to read the last 4 numbers.
That's right.
Oh, there were no tickets.
Or do they say you got to be in it to win it?
Right. Must be present to win.
All right. And all right.
Hey, DB Cooper made an appearance.
Hey.
We've been looking for him for 50 years.
Well, there we go. Oceanside, California.
FBI, that's where he's at.
Kaliva, Kaliva, or is it Kaliva? It's Michigan. Walt, greetings from Phoenix. I bet you it's a lot warmer than it is here. Yeah, I like the point, but you can't get that in Arizona. So
if you're out of points, you're out of town.
That's right. All right, let's. I think we got a good crowd here now. We got about 50 people kind of tuned in. So let's do a couple of questions. Let's see. I'm going to start at the top of the list because I saw one here. There's an easy one. Bud asks, is there a big difference between an HF SWR meter and one that's used for VHF UHF? And the short answer is yes, there is a difference.
Yeah. They're not going to, if you use an HF one for VHF and UHF, it's not going to be very accurate.
Yeah, that's really the answer. I mean, the circuitry, in the meters are designed for a set range of frequencies. So the HF ones usually top out at either 30 megahertz. Some of them may go up to 60. So you can get the 6 meter band in them. And then the VHF, UHF ones are strictly, above 50 megahertz up to about 450 or so. So you can do both the 70 centimeter and the 2 meter amateur bands. So there. Now, an analyzer is a different story than an SWR bridge, and those
right. Analyzer goes whatever the specs are. I think your rig expert goes up to 600 megahertz.
Yeah, the one that I use, the AA600, that'll go up to 600 megahertz. The little stick that I've been using on my portable, I think that'll goes up to 230. I still got my old MFJ here. Unless I drop it, and that only goes up to mine only goes up to 170. So
that MFJ has been dropped a lot.
Yeah, I'm not gonna
by me.
Yeah, and then the MFJ, I think that goes up to 170 megahertz.
Now, school kids are using spectrum analyzers, and that mine will go up to a gig.
There you go. Well, those nano VNAs will go up to a gigahertz. So.
Mm-hmm. I think the new nano VNA will go up to 3 gig.
Wow. I'm gonna have to check that one out. Mm-hmm. So
that'll be another video one of these days.
Eric asks, I have an SDR play to listen in on ham until I get my license. What's a good antenna for inside until I get warmer weather? The simplest, if you just want to listen, it depends on what you want to listen to. If you want to listen to HF frequencies, the lower stuff, just a long piece of wire, random wire, 30 feet or so. That'll pick up a lot of signal. If you're looking for VHF, UHF, probably, make yourself like a little 2 meter quarter wave kind of antenna, just a piece of wire like 19 inches or so. That'll get you.
Or a simple scanner antenna will be perfectly fine for VHF and UHF.
Yeah. So, and since we're talking about, I lost it now. Hello, Christian. Thanks for joining us. And somebody asked another antenna question here.
Looking for it.
It was about the
look for Mike Spikes. Is that the one about the 2 meter tape measure beam?
Yeah. There it is. When you build your 2 meter tape measure beam, how come you use a wire to connect the ground to the lead? Doesn't that cancel out? That little piece of wire that connects the 2 pieces of the driven element is called a hairpin match. And what that does is typically, without a match, Yagi antennas will usually have a very low resistance, about 25 ohms or so. And that match is supposed to bring them up to about 50 ohms for, so you have the proper impedance for your transceiver. if we were running, electricity through the antenna, like DC, DC electric or something, well, yeah, then it would short out and you'd have a mess. But RF energy has an AC current component to it, and that will, it's RF. It's not a dead short to RF. So it's a short answer.
They should be, the two sides should be out of phase. So so that's why you're not shorting it out.
So so on AC, you've got AC currents. You got the two phases. So one side is one phase, and the other side of the antenna is the other phase, and they don't short out. So okay, and let's see. Brent asks, how far can you realistically reach on a UHF or VHF QSO? Trying for a SOTA. Summit's on the air tomorrow or Saturday.
How high are you?
Yeah, it depends. VHF propagation depends on three things. It depends on antenna height, transceiver power, and local terrain. And height.
It's height. And and of course terrain. So if you're on a summit, you might be able to, you can easily say miles and miles. I've seen some of these people do summits with a 2-meter handheld, and you should be able to reach 20, 40, 60 miles, depending on what your elevation is, around everything else. So. Right. Well, last summer we tried the Summit to Summit from Rib Mountain here in Wisconsin to Tim's Hill.
Yep. And
we were able to break the squelch with a 2-watt UHF radio.
Yeah.
And that was probably 35, 40 miles as the crow flies.
I think it's about 40 miles. So we were talking handheld to handheld. So all right. And I think, well, let's talk a little bit about Winterfield Day, because
I'll let you talk about it, because I wasn't there.
When we were, last month, when we were on a live stream, we were talking about Winterfield Day, and we had big plans.
Huge plans, ginormous. Huge. They were the greatest ever.
They were. We were gonna head out. Joe's got a friend that's got a cabin out in the middle of nowhere, and we were gonna bring out everything in the kitchen sink and set up for the weekend and have a grand old time. And
Michael had gone to the liquor store.
Yeah, I had that bottle of snowshoe grog, and
then Wednesday came, and I was told, "You're working this weekend," and I'm like, "No, I'm not." And like, "Yes, you are." So I put in about 20 hours this weekend between Saturday and Sunday, and I didn't get to do Winterfield Day.
At least you got a little coin. Yeah.
Yeah. Then, the IRS will come next week and take that.
There you go. Yeah, so it's looking for something to do for Winterfield Days. The wife and I decided to do a day trip, and we went to Appleton, which was about a 90-minute drive, and got some lunch and found a park. We stopped there's a state park right outside of town, so we set up out there for a couple hours, and I made a total of 10 hole contacts on 20 and 40 meters. So Winterfield Day was a busy weekend. There was a lot of activity on the air. And if you were just going on to hunt and pounce, it was slow going. You really needed to find a frequency and call CQ if you wanted to rack up the points, and that was hard to do in the first few hours of the event. So
there were a lot of complaints similar to what came up from Field Day this year. Mostly that the big guns at home were drowning out the little guys.
Yeah. And
I don't tend to subscribe to that theory. I think that you just have to be a better operator. It's going to be a little bit difficult, but you shouldn't be skunked.
No. It does make things a little bit challenging because there's a finite amount of space, and you do get drowned out by some of the larger stations. If you're running portable, if you're only running a few watts, or if you're running with a compromised antenna system. But even if you have a good antenna system and you're running full power, was it at field day last year? I ran 100 watts and I had that 80 meter off center fed, and it was still a challenge to make contacts on field day. And I saw the same thing happening on Winterfield day as what happened last June at ARRL field day. And hopefully we will be able, the rules will be able to be adjusted slightly so that the home stations don't really take up so much bandwidth, and it gives the the portable operators just a little bit more ability to make some noise. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. But on the other hand too, because everyone else, well, I should say everyone else, there's a few more stations out there running full power that would normally do it.
Yeah.
So pick and choose your battles. Those guys aren't going to be running all day.
Nope.
And also take your time. Make sure your antenna's working properly.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it comes down to.
And then a lot of times it was, I would find a station, and I would listen for a bit. You first thing you want to do is when you find a new station is you just want to listen to them to see how they're kind of operating the pile up. And I called 2 or 3 times. If I couldn't get through by the third time I called them, I moved on and found a different one, because otherwise you'd spend a half hour trying to get that one station. And
you get frustrated.
So, if you can't break through after 2 or 3 calls, mark the frequency, come back to it. It's who knows, you'll make it through that time. So.
10 minutes later, they'll be begging for calls.
Yeah. But Scout 75, my plans for Winterfield, they were much larger than my reality, but still had some fun with my first parks on the air. Governor Knowles State Forest. Hey, I activated I activated that last summer. It is a beautiful place. So hope you had a good activation.
Yeah, I was there 2 years ago for Wisconsin Parks on the Air.
Mm-hmm.
I went out to one of the backpack sites way out there, and spent 2 days out there. And when I heard the bear dogs coming in, I decided Sunday morning it was time to leave, because the dogs are barking. There means there's a bear around.
Yeah.
I'm getting my butt out of here.
We were in the family camping campground, so it's had a nice big site. It was a lot of pucker brush, so it was hard to set up an wire antenna, but the vertical went well for that park. So, all right, let's see. Peter asks, why would it appear my dipole transmits better than it receives? I often get a single report of 5.9, but I'm hearing the other person 5.1. That could be a lot of reasons. Number one, it's you may have a, depending on how your dipole is oriented. Maybe if you're picking it off the side and instead of the end of the dipole, that could be the reason why. Or if you're during a special event or a contest, everybody's 5.9 in the contest. So
5.1. So that would lead me to suspect that do you have an attenuator on? Check your radar to see if there's an attenuator, because no one's 5 at 5.1.
Yeah.
It's not a crystal copy at 1.
That could
be,
yeah.
If it really is that way, check and see, do you have a preamp? Something's going on there. I mean, you're not going to be 5.9 with everyone.
No.
5.5, 5.7, somewhere there. It's a dipole. Are you using the dipole on the band that it's made for?
Yeah.
Because if you're outside of the 3 dB bandwidth, the received signal strength is going to be less.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have, say, like a 40 meter dipole and you're using a tuner on it, then maybe there's a reason why you're losing some signal strength.
That'd be a possibility too. Dave Sachs, maybe RF gain. That could be check if your RF gain is down low.
Check your RF gain. That's another thing too.
Attenuation. Like I said, a lot of people are generous in their signal reports, so everybody's 5.9 in the contest.
Let's take You're getting 5.9. You're getting a 5.9. Everyone's getting a 5.9.
Yes.
If you reach under your seats, more 5.9s.
More 5.9s.
20 over.
There you go. Let's see. I leave between, Scout 75 says, I leave between Governor Knowles and Creek Meadows. I know the uneasy feeling of hearing the bark of the bear dogs.
So the funny story is, it was Sunday morning, and about 10 miles from my campsite, there was a small gas station. So I usually would go in there in the morning to kind of clean up, get some coffee. And as I was driving out, I saw the truck with the dogs in the back, and I didn't really think anything of it. Like, there's a truck with a bunch of dogs. Got back, and I started herding them. I thought about it, like, oh, it's September. Like, oh, crap. I'm going to pack my stuff up and get the hell out of here.
Yeah. Brett posted this earlier today. He asked, I run a horizontal 80-meter off-center fed in the backyard, but I have made a 2040 link dipole and a 40-meter off-center fed to test the spring. And this question is, which is kind of a debatable one, is what is better, flat top horizontal or an inverted V? And I don't know if one is better than the other, but they're different, and they're going to give you, different. They're going to have different characteristics.
Different takeoff angle.
Certainly with the takeoff angle, the inverted V will favor closer signal, a little bit closer communication than say DX. If you're really, if you're looking for a DX antenna, you want to get those foreign stations, then flat top all the way. Make sure that you're up a quarter wave and you are in your horizontal. If you're looking to, maybe a little bit more of a regional kind of coverage, then bring the legs down to an inverted V, and you'll get a little bit better performance closer in. So, but otherwise, so I guess the question is what are you looking for, for the antenna to do? If you're not big on a DX, but you want to talk to, your buddy 2 states away, inverted V. If you want to get Papua New Guinea, the flat top. So I think, that's probably the best way to kind of.
But as propagation changes a little bit,
yep,
that's all bets are off.
It's all bets are off in most circumstances.
A good friend of mine said that when at the peak of the solar cycle, the best propagation is NVIS because it goes up and out like a nuclear explosion.
Mm-hmm. And I've had very good luck with NVIS, on a local/regional level. But when the band is open, who knows what you're gonna hear. Mm-hmm. So, I think we're gonna take a little bit of a break here, and I just kind of want to recognize our patrons. I do have a channel. I do have a page over on Patreon where you can support the channel, and we got a new patron for February, and that's Bruce Gazdecki. Hopefully and of course our associate producers, that's our highest Patreon level, Paul Sweeney and Paul Westerberg. So thank you so much.
Thank you,
Paul and Paul. So thank you so much for your support, and you can support the mission to educate and inspire over at patreon.com/KB9VBR antennas. So we appreciate any and all support, because one of the things I like to do with this channel is try to keep it agenda free. So one of what we do with your support is help buy equipment so that we can test it. And yep, oh yeah, we got to keep going to beer. So so that's all. Yeah, any that's all support. That's all. That support is all greatly appreciated. Mm-hmm. And with that, I think it's kind of a good time to talk about our meter giveaway. So, a couple weeks ago,
NAG 8008.
NAG 8008. It's in the box here. I could take it out of the box. Joe's probably got one handy out of the box, but
no, it's
digital
in the bag right over there.
Okay.
Behind me. There we go.
Joe did a video on this meter, a nice little review on it, compared it to his very expensive industrial meter that shall remain nameless.
That expensive. It's that expensive.
Yeah, it's a nice little meter.
It's 10 times what that cost.
Yeah. So,
but I was not comparing.
No,
I was just using it as a tool.
Mm-hmm.
By comparing it.
By comparing it. So what I did is I fed in all of the comments for the ANIG and 8008 video into this neat little page called pickawinner.co, and it tells me that our winner is James Howard, and he gave us the little comment. Thanks, way to go, Joe. So James Howard, I will leave a comment for you, or you can get in touch with me, and we'll get you hooked up with that meter. So thanks a lot for playing, everybody.
I have a funny story about this. So the video drops. So backstory. I upload all the raw video to a Google Drive, and Michael takes it, he edits it, and puts it together. So I didn't know anything about him adding the intro and the giveaway. So all of a sudden, I started seeing the comments hitting and popping up. I'm like, holy smokes, we're getting a lot of comments. People are saying, great job, Joe. I'm thinking, wow, this is really taking off. This is great. And I look at the views, it's only like 400 or 500 views. I'm like, that's a lot of comments for such. And then I watch it. And I'm like, you son of a beep. So there it is. I had my hopes really high and then shot all the hell.
Yeah. Well, you didn't give me an intro or an outro, so I had to tack a little something on, and then
There's an intro and an outro.
Well, then I didn't find it.
You got to look through the folder a little bit more. So let me get this straight. So you didn't find the intro and outro. Instead of just like sending me a message saying, "Hey Joe, where's the intro and outro?" You recorded your own, then spent $40 and got another meter to give away.
Yeah, I needed the meter so I could take a picture for the thumbnail. So
again, I could give you one.
Hey, but then we wouldn't have the drawing. And
thanks, Patreon.
And you wouldn't be able to use your meter for your nefarious purposes. So.
Oh, that's coming up. So, full disclosure, my videos are very mild-mannered. I take great pride in them. But coming up soon, we're going to blow stuff up. It's going to be messy. It's going to be like Mythbusters and World of Worlds and Star Wars. There's going to be lasers. There's going to be high voltage. There's going to be injuries and blood and gore. Okay, maybe not blood and gore, but there may be some injuries. So what I've done is I've acquired a transformer that provides a very high output voltage, and we're going to hook up some meters and watch them blow up. Fun entertainment. Get the kids around. You know, maybe we'll get some marshmallows on a stick.
There we go.
There we go.
We'll do it when the snow melts. Yeah, this is like watching.
Leave the snow because that'll probably help the fire. It is a picnic, Christian.
There we go. So it is cold where you are. Can you transmit further in cold weather? Oh, sometimes. Yes and no. It's VHF, UHF. If you get, if you've got very cold weather and then maybe some warm air aloft, you can get some RF ducting, and really, then your signal will take off like that.
Last month we had that. Wisconsin had a lot of warm, moist days, which is very rare in January. The fact that we had a lot of hoarfrost, if you've seen that, where the fog actually freezes to the trees and everything just turns white. But the ducting was phenomenal for a couple weeks there. Also, the winter, your lower bands, 40, 60, 80, and 160, that's a great time for those bands.
Yeah.
It's not the best time for 20, 15, and especially 10, but your lower bands you're going to have better propagation in the winter.
It gets the cold weather lowers the noise floor, so you get better signal quality, better distance. So okay, I get an email. Spillo 84 Top says, can you speak in the future about MLA antenna? MLA would be magnetic loop antennas, the working principle and so on. So I don't know. We talked. We had a video on the magnetic loop, and I think he followed up and he was wondering about setup and things like that.
So basically, a mag loop is a small loop that you feed with coax, usually coax, and then there's a larger loop around it, and you have mutual inductance. So when you charge that inner loop with RF, it charges the outer loop. Now it's inductive. It's very inductive. So in order to tune it to resonance, you have a tuning capacitor. Normally on a vertical or on traps on a dipole, you have an inductor that you would tune, but on a mag loop, you have a capacitor. Now, nice thing about a mag loop is that they will reject frequencies outside of their tune frequency. And it's usually a very narrow bandwidth. Also, they're very directional. They're very small, usually. And they don't require a ground. So they're a little bit different than any other antenna really out there. The bad thing about it is they're not really good just for cruising the bands and listening. Because once you're outside of that bandwidth, you're not going to receive much. It's similar to the individual asking about always receiving a 5.1. That's probably the best you're going to get once you're about 15, 20 kilohertz outside of the bandwidth, especially on lower bands. Additionally, they're also going to be very high Q, especially on 40, 60, 80 meters. So your tuning bandwidth is only going to be a couple of kc, in which case you pick a frequency and you call. You're not going to be scanning the bands very much.
No, because every time you shift, you're going to have to retune the antenna. So
just a couple of kilohertz. You're going to have to retune it. And tuning is very knife edge. In fact, you're going to want to have an analyzer to tune it. Otherwise, you're never going to have a chance of getting it right.
Yeah. Yep. So maybe we can this spring when it gets a little warmer, we'll pull that out and do another video on it. So, and I think I'm going to grab one more question here. Then we're going to go up to our featured. One of the featured things we're going to talk to. So, as Patrick asks, what's your go-to solution for HF antennas when trees aren't around? I'm looking at a TN07 solution, but wanted your thoughts. I'm not familiar with the TN07, but it looks like it's one of the style antennas that has is a vertical style antenna with a matching section, so you can use it either as a vertical or as a wire or whatnot. similar to the chameleons, and we've used the chameleons like the Icom series, but there again, you need a tree. Usually, if there's no trees, or I'm at a place where it might be difficult to get things in a tree, I go the vertical route. I've been using the Wolf River Coil Silver Billet 1000, and that works very well. The Chameleon Empass 2 would be another one of those. It looks like the TN07 would probably do the same kind of thing. I'd have to read up on that one a little bit more, because, like I said, I'm not too familiar with that one.
So, but if you're looking for some vertical, or say some sort of vertical support, go to an Army surplus store or even on eBay, and they do make 4 foot or somewhere around that length post stakes made specifically for antennas, and they're either aluminum or fiberglass. And Michael will tell you, get the aluminum ones.
Yep.
There was an unfortunate field day incident where, thank God, I was wearing a hard hat.
The fiberglass ones, especially the military surplus ones, get brittle with age, and
when you have 30 feet of them stacked and you're trying to walk it up, they snap.
They snap
on your head.
And they shatter. The aluminum ones are a lot more rigid, so it's if you can get 25, 30 feet of mass, then you can run any kind of inverted V style wire antenna that you would want. So
yeah, and they're aluminum, so they're not very heavy.
No.
And you can buy bases for them that are about 12 to 18 inches wide. And then for guy wires, I always just go get the dog tie outs that you screw into the ground, and then you can just tie it off with some rope.
There you go. So, all right, let's talk a little bit about amateur radio news this week. I saw that the Yaesu just announced that they are discontinuing 2 radios, the FTDX 3000 and its big brother, the FTDX 5000.
I'm glad we got ours while we still could.
Oh, I know. I've got the FTDX 3000 on the desk here, and I love it. And the 5000 was the step up from that. They said that the reason they're discontinuing the radios is due to parts availability, and they didn't really go into specifics. But back in October of 2020, a company by the name of AKM, Asahi Kasei Microsystems in Japan, issued a press release that a fire broke out in their Nobuka semiconductor plant. And that factory produces large-scale integrated circuits used in audio equipment, home appliances. They make TX exo oscillators, which is thermally compensated crystal oscillators, and other products. And because of the fire, ACAM has been forced to stop production, and delays are to be expected. And basically, they're saying that this factory that produce digital analog converters and crystal oscillators and things like that, it's going to be out of business for 6 to 12 months. And,
I think this is the same fire that caused Kenwood to discontinue the THD74.
Yes, it is. They the discontinuance of the Kenwood handheld is also attributed to the fire at this semiconductor plant, and it not only is affecting the radio industry too, but camera manufacturers Nikon, Canon, and Sony have announced limited availability of some of their products. So it's these semiconductors are found in a lot of things. Auto manufacturers are being forced to reduce production. I was just doing a little bit of Googling today, and both Ford, GM, and I can't remember. There was one import too that said that they were going to have to reduce, just slow down production because of the shortage of these semiconductors. But so it's rippling throughout the electronics world. And
I think Patrick also commented there, Icom's new ID52 is delayed probably because of it.
Oh, okay.
So if you're hoping for a new Icom with D-Star, you're going to wait a while.
Yeah. And I know Icom hasn't announced any, discontinuing any product yet, But I'm wondering because you look at the age that the FTDX 3000 was introduced in 2012, and the 5000 was introduced in 2009. So they've been around for a while. I'm wondering if maybe the the IC 7200 could, or is it the 7100, the one that's got the touchscreen? I think
7300.
No, not the one with the SDR.
Oh, 5100.
No, their mobile one. Their mobile HF rig. Mm-hmm. I think that's the 7200. So I'm wondering, that one's been out for a few years. If that would, if we may see an announcement on that in the future. So just a little bit of speculation there, but. Yaesu's hurting. I mean, Yaesu discontinued the FT450 last summer and the FTDX 1200, and both of those rigs weren't attributed to this fire. But I think those parts availability issues were more just general COVID related. But
right, and they rebranded the 817 as the 818 with some new parts. But I think the 818, 817, that's a separate beast all on its own. I mean, the radio is 20 years old. This is the third revision of it. It was 817 ND, now the 818 ND. But it's got such a following, not just as a QRP transceiver, but it's used as an IF rig for microwave, for low band, 630, 2200. And all sorts of things. So it's still got a good niche market. So they decided to upgrade it versus discontinuing it. Whereas now the 3000 and the 5000, they're basically being replaced with the 101, now the FTDX 10.
Yep. So maybe they felt safer. Yaesu felt safer that with the new models coming out, that this would be the impetus to retire these two rigs, which are I will admit that is a little bit long in the tooth. 12 years for the FTDX 5000 is a long time, but still after 12 years its receiver is still king of the heap.
Right.
So but
the 3000 receiver is one of the best receivers I've ever heard. And if you want to argue about it, I would say it's better than a 7300 with SDR.
But the FTDX 10, Yaesu just announced that it came in third in the Sherwood test results for receiver sensitivity. So it's no slouch. Their hybrid SDR transceivers are definitely pretty hot stuff, and I think maybe that's going to be the direction that the company is going to move in the future. So,
eventually, all rigs are going to be SDR. There's no two bets about it. The question is though, when does SDR surpass regular mechanical filters and DSP?
Mm-hmm.
And it's coming.
It's coming.
I don't think it's quite here yet. Digital is always going to be a little below analog, I'd say. It's the same thing with records versus CD.
Yeah. So we'll see. Definitely, things like this with the plant closing down. We're going to see a lot of changes that are already on the way in the amateur radio marketplace with the new technologies. So and
COVID ain't helping either.
No, it's not. It's just moving things faster. So, but
hey, if you get another amateur radio stimulus package coming up in the next month,
I'd kind of like that FTDX 10, but I'm still loving my 3000, and it's so what if your radio is discontinued? So what? I mean, parts will generally be available for it for some time to come. I think the parts that they're finding unavailable are typically the ones that don't fail. we're talking about semiconductors and oscillators, and those things are pretty, they'll last forever. It's not like a capacitor that's going to dry out, or it's going to be a transistor that's going to blow, or or power amp or something. Something like that. So, use it in good health, and you're going to still get a lot of, a lot of life out of it, and it's still a contender out there on the bands. And Clay says, glad I got my 3000 when I did. So I wanted the larger rig in the shack, and the 3000 fit the bill, and the
3000 is a big boy radio.
Yeah, that's my sentiments exactly. I like the buttons and knobs on it. I like the ability that when I'm tuning in to our local HF Aries Races net, I can isolate the noise, the background noise, and I can kill pull up those weak signals and kill the interference, and it's just easy to do with a radio like that. So.
Right. It's on the same plane as Yaesu's old FT1000 Mark V. Mm-hmm. Those are another radio that is strictly audio or analog with DSP, but it was just a phenomenal build.
Yep.
And I've noticed with my 3000, I can just change the bandwidth, the receive bandwidth, and all the noise goes away. It's just amazing.
Yep. It's something else. So, all right. Bruce says, I need to get an HF radio. Looking at the FT891. 891 is a beautiful portable radio, and works
great
well in the
mobile
shed.
radio.
It's a very good mobile radio. Menu intensive, so just be aware of that. And it doesn't have a built-in tuner. I know some people find that as a shortcoming. I'd rather have a wider range external tuner than one that's built in the rig, though. So. All right.
Someone earlier was asking a POTA question, but let's hit this one first.
Oh yeah. And then Greg says, I got my General a couple months ago looking at a new HF. Is it worth it?
Yeah.
I think so.
How much you got to spend?
Yeah. it's we talked about this last month, and I know if you look at the in the archives here on you could there's a nice little excerpt that you can watch where we talk about should we go go new or go used, or what's a good choice for a HF rig. But I'd shop around and maybe make a list of what you want to do with HF, and see if there's a radio that kind of fits that niche. So.
Right. The best radio is the one that gets you on the air and makes you happy.
There you go.
So if you find a smoking good deal on the used radio, grab it. Especially as the first one, because the problem is that I found out is that you're going to beat it. You're going to probably abuse it. So my first radio was a Kenwood TS520, which you can shoot them with a 50 caliber rifle and they will still tune.
Yeah.
But I learned a lot from it. So when I upgraded to a IC756, it was a natural progression, and I knew the basics of HF. So when all the new features came in with that, I was able to move right along. So if you get an older radio, that's fine. You get on the air, you make contacts, you find out what you like to do.
Yep.
And then 3, 4, 5 years down the road, when you're sure on what you want to do next, you know what you're looking for. But don't go and spend $5,000 on the latest and greatest HF radio and find out that you don't want to spend $5,000 and spend every day you put on HF.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my first rig was the IC718, which is just as bare bones as you can get. And learn on something simple and easy. And then when you get as you kind of build your skill and outgrow that radio, then something a little bit bigger kind of it just feels right. So
exactly.
And I found that POTA question. What do you use for grounding your equipment when doing parks on the air?
Nothing.
I don't. You know what? When I'm out in the field, I typically do not ground it.
No.
Now, as a side, when our club usually does field day every year, we always grounded everything. We grounded the generator, we grounded the tower, we grounded the rigs. But there we were, we'd be set up for 24 hours, and there'd always be a chance of a thunderstorm or something like that. And
there was a 4-foot ground rod and about 6 inches into the dirt. That's not grounding.
No, that's not grounded.
So grounding, interesting enough, I just did a presentation for our club on grounding in the shack 2 days ago. There's a video. But we do grounding for 3 things. We do it for RF abatement, we do it for lightning protection, and we do it for AC electrical protection. So if you're doing parks on the air, I'm assuming you don't have connection to AC mains. You're running off a battery, so that's negated. If you're out doing parks on the air and you hear thunder, you're doing something wrong. And the third is RF abatement. Now, you could get RF burn if you're using a non-resonant antenna and you have a tuner. That's probable. But most people use antennas that are resonant or close to resonant, or at least cut for the band that they're operating on. So getting an RF burn or needing RF abatement isn't that high of a priority. So you really don't need to do any grounding to your radio while you're out. Now, if you're operating mobile, you want to make sure that your radio is bonded, and there's some other bonding things you have to do within the vehicle. But the vehicle itself is not grounded. You have 4 rubber tires. So you don't have to ground, especially when you are operating mobile. I would take the time to ground in the shack, though. Yeah.
And that's precisely the point. When you're out in the field, unless you're in a situation where you've got a difficult RF situation, where grounding may make a difference. If you've got an antenna that's just not giving you, it's giving you fits. Not a good tune or whatnot. Grounding may help that situation, but for the most part,
a counterpoise or a radio may help that situation. But that's not necessarily grounding.
No. Yeah, you are correct on that. So yeah.
But that's a good point. And I've had that argument with people. We have a guy in our club that says, "Oh, you have to ground it if you're operating portable," and I say, "Baloney! You don't have to ground it if you're at home. You should ground it if you're at home. But if you're operating for 2 hours, why should you drive a ground rod?"
Yep,
it's correct. Ridiculous.
Correct. So grounding is totally optional, not necessary for portable operations. All right. Let's see. Somebody was asking about headsets. You recommend a good headset with a mic for the FT891. I want to try my hands-free when contesting. I'd like to get a headset for that radio too. So,
the gold standard for amateur, I guess, is Heil.
Yeah.
They make great ones, but there are other ones out there too. I've seen people use aviation headsets and just reconfigure them for the mic connector. So the options are endless. You're going to have to find one that you like, that's comfortable, and just personal experience. I have a large head, so I need to have headphones that really fit. Otherwise, it's very uncomfortable, and I'm probably not going to do very well. But other people will tell you too is that you need to find a microphone that kind of fits the tone of your voice. I have a very low voice, which is maybe good for contesting. But if you kind of a higher voice, or maybe it's a little more of a thinner tone, you may need some audio processing. And that's something to look into too, especially if you have like a radio like an 891 that doesn't have a lot of processing with it.
I've had very good luck with for my old Icom, I had a Heil Pro set, and I've had very good luck with that. It worked well for me, and it was comfortable to use, and I like that switchable. It had the 2 mic elements, so you could switch between the normal and the DX element. And if I wasn't breaking pileups with the one, you could switch to the other element, and all of a sudden that just gave you either a different tone or a different level of punch that it always worked well for me. And so I might go that route again. with the 891. Like I said, I'm thinking this spring of shopping for a headset for that radio, just to make the Parks on the Air activations a little bit easier, so I'm not running
picture
this.
it. Parks on the Air 2021. Michael KB9 VBR in his hammock with his radio off to the side and his speaker mic headset operating Parks on the Air.
There we go. Well,
with a beverage in his hand.
I did hammock portable last fall, so it'll happen again. It'll happen again. But yeah, the Heils are good. There's others out there, all different price points. Unfortunately, I guess it's something you almost have to try to see if you like. But the Heil, can't go wrong with the Heil, I guess. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but then somebody else will tell you, something else. So, there we go. Sennheiser Pro Studio headphones, way better than Heil. So,
Sennheiser's been making pro audio equipment for a long time.
Yeah.
Now the question is it equipped for a 2.4 kilohertz bandwidth that we use on HF? Maybe. Play with, you could be taking a bigger signal and kind of getting a little more punch out of it by compressing it in there. So that may be helping it too. I'm not a huge audio whiz, but the main thing is for contesting, you want punch in a narrow bandwidth. That's what gets you the most bang for your buck.
Mm-hmm. And studio mics may not give you that. So Justin's currently using the Peltor Comtac 3s, so might want to check that one out. Dave brings up a good point. The mic jack location on the 891 is a beast. You do have to pull the panel off.
Right.
I've seen some adapters that you can put on those, so you can lift that mic connection out.
Can you use a DIN connector on the back?
You might. You can. The DIN connector does keying. It has a line out. It has a line in, but I don't think it has mic level. I don't know. It's a good question. If you could go that route or not. I know it has line out and line in, which might be a different impedance than what the mic gives you.
Mm-hmm. There's a question there from Chad talking about grounding in a mobile unit. There we go.
All right. Yep. Here we go. You're saying that a mobile unit does not need to be grounded.
It does not need to be grounded. Mm-hmm. It needs to be bonded. Because if grounding is what you're doing, then you're attaching your Jeep to a ground rod. And I don't think you're doing that. But you are bonding the radio to the chassis of the vehicle. And usually there's a couple other things you do. You want to make sure your hood and your trunk lids have a bonding strap. And you also want to make sure that your exhaust is bonded to the chassis as well, because the exhaust actually has rubber hangers. So both your trunk lid and your hood, as well as the exhaust, because they're not really solidly connected to the chassis, they actually create capacitance that you're going to be fighting when you're trying to tune an antenna. And because we're always using compromised antennas mobile, any sort of stray capacitance like that you want to avoid as much as possible. So the correct term is you are bonding the radio to the car. You are not grounding it, though.
It sounds like a semantic difference, and I know, unfortunately, we use those two terms interchangeably, but
we use them incorrectly.
Incorrectly,
but they are different.
Yeah. So your mobile radio should be bonded. You're bonding the radio to the frame of the vehicle. It's base stations should be grounded. You're grounding them to an earth point. So.
But in a base station, all of our equipment is bonded together. Your tuner should be bonded to the same equipotential plane as your radio, as your VHF, UHF radio, as your power supply, as your AC main. And yes, you go to the same place because you all want to keep them at the same potential. You don't want any potential difference between any of them. When you have that, that's when you get problems.
Yeah. We should get that PowerPoint up. Once you get that uploaded, I'll share that to the community here. So
I have the video actually. So our club, because of COVID, we haven't been able to meet. So we decided to start doing Zoom presentations. And it's an hour-long video that we did on discussion of just bonding inside the shack. It doesn't necessarily contain lightning protection outside or anything else. It's just what you do in the shack. And it's not necessarily that difficult. An afternoon, not a huge investment. You can use parts laying around a lot. And you'll find that you'll get a lot better performance, especially from RF abatement and from a safety perspective with AC safety as well.
All right. So, and yeah, we'll get you connected with that, and maybe we'll do some. We'll in a future video we'll talk a little bit about grounding and bounding too. We are getting close to the end here, so I'm going to grab just one or two more. K5 HRV asks, just got my general, getting my first HF soon. The IC718 should get a no tuner required antenna or a manual tuner, assuming they may only choose one or the other. The AC718 does not come with a tuner, and I think that a manual tuner is a good station accessory to have, even if you have a no tuner required antenna, because invariably your no tuner required antenna may not present a perfect match to your rig, and you may need to get rid of some impedance in order to safely transmit on it. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But I'm guessing, when you say no tuner antenna, something like an end-fed half wave or something like that.
Dipole.
Or a dipole, dipole if you're going to stick with one band, or a vertical, that's adjustable or something like that. But manual tuners, I bought a manual tuner when I first bought the radio, and it's a good thing to have. And if you don't use it, if you don't need it, you don't use it. If you're in a sticky situation, then the tuner's there.
A manual tuner is worth its weight in gold. You can tune a guardrail on the highway with one.
Oh,
really?
Yeah. And I think for your first tuner, you should get a manual tuner and not an automatic tuner, because I think every ham should have in their arsenal of equipment a manual tuner of some shape or form. And I've got a couple. I've got I've got a smaller MFJ 945 traveling tuner or mobile tuner, and then I got the larger MFJ 949E. That classic MFJ tuner you see, sitting on everybody's desk, and they're great. They're great things to have. And I've moved on to an automatic tuner, but I still got the manual tuner, as a backup in case, because they'll tune things a lot of times an auto tuner won't touch.
A manual tuner with the cross needles is what you want.
Yep.
Spend a little bit more and get the cross needles. Don't get the single needle one. Get the cross needle ones and learn how to use it correctly. And you can tune a wet noodle. Yeah.
That MFJ 949E, I think that's the current production of it. That's the tuner you want. They're not that expensive. What, 150, I think? Under 200. So
less than a automatic tuner.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. And they're versatile. They're really more versatile. And you can tune with those almost as fast as you can with an auto tuner. So all right. Yep. Yeah. So all right. And I think that's it. We're kind of tie the bows on it. So coming up videos, I don't know if I'm going to get outdoors in the next few weeks. It's going to be cold. So
you're saying I got to make up for it?
No, no, that means I'll be recording in the studio here. Okay. I do have a review coming up on those Shark Distributing ham stick antennas. I've been playing around with those for the last couple weeks, and you'll see that coming up in a week or so. Just got to get my thoughts down on that and get things recorded. We will, coming up in March, I think it's the Wisconsin QSO party, but we'll have another
third weekend, I think.
It's usually when daylight savings time kicks in. So, and I think we'll probably have a live stream before that. So, and on the next live stream, I'll announce what I'm going to do for the QSO party. And I'm not sure what else I've got coming up. I know I got a big fat list, but if there's a video,
some new tools, so there'll be a few new reviews coming.
All right.
They will not be multimeters, but we will blow some multimeters up. I guarantee that's going to be fun.
Oh, maybe we'll do that on a Saturday in February. So
when it's cold.
When it's cold.
The sparks fly farther when it's cold out. Honestly, folks, it's not the beer. It's that I've worked like about 14 days straight. Bedtime is coming very fast.
Yeah, and it's cold in my basement. It's like 55 degrees down here. So, Sean says the Minnesota QSO party is this weekend. So, hey, maybe I'll get on the air if 40's been.
Don't you know you're 5'9"?
If 40's clean for me, I'll work a few stations. So.
We'll get on the maybe Sunday after. Is it a Saturday or Sunday contest, or is it all weekend?
I don't know. I don't know.
Let's Google it. We're going into overtime here, folks. Minnesota QSO party.
Yeah.
Nope, it's a Saturday only.
Oh,
8 a.m. to 6 p.m.
You probably got to work then.
No, I'm off.
Huh?
As long as nothing blows up tomorrow, I'm off. Oh. Fingers crossed.
All right. So, okay. So let's, that sounds good. So thanks everybody for showing up this evening. It's really appreciated. Had a good sized crowd here too. And a lot of great questions. Hopefully we'll have another big slew of questions next month. I'm sure. So,
and hopefully you come back with all 10 fingers.
There you go. So with that, I'm Michael, KB9 VBR.
And I'm Joe, KD9 CGX.
Everybody have a great evening and 73.
Stay safe.